Hello and welcome to the Lost Pines Workshop. I'm J.C. Jensen. This is episode 3 of our beginning woodworking series. And in this episode, we're going to discuss some joints. No, not those. This one. Definitely not that. So we're talking about woodworking joints as a whole, joinery. So we're going to look at a few, not all, but a few of the joints that are available to us as woodworkers. We're going to begin with the easiest and move into some more that are a little more challenging. We'll discuss some of their benefits and some of their weaknesses. So we'll start off with the really easy, everybody's seen one called a butt joint. No, not that one. Not the one I'm sitting on. But I'm going to take two pieces of square wood and I want to join them together thusly. Now, doing this, on this piece I have long grain and on this piece I have end grain. We could simply glue those two together. Inherent problem here is it's a really weak, right? You have the end grain fibers here with the glue on. These end grain fibers are going to want to just break off. You could, in addition to screws, or excuse me, in addition to glue, you could add screws through the face into the long grain of our other piece, or we could add nails, which is quite common in this type of joint. But again, it's inherently a weak joint, but it is very common. Next on our list, turn this scrap over, is our lap joint. So in a lap joint, utilizing my scrap here, you'll notice that I removed half of the material from this piece and half of the material from this piece in equal amounts so that I could place the two together and they overlap each other. All right, so this is a half lap. This gives us lots of glue surface and a fairly strong joint. No additional hardware is required. Gives us our nice 90-degree angle here as well. That is a lap joint. Next, let's look at what we call a miter joint. So a miter joint is, I want to join these two guys together where I have cut a 45-degree bevel opposite of each other in order to form a 90-degree angle, 90-degree joint. All right, structurally this is terrible, right? We're end grain to end grain for one, but there's just not a whole lot of support here, right? There's just nothing going to really keep us together. However, it does provide very nice seam or joint or a viewing pleasure, both on the side as well as the end when done properly. When they're fitted together nice, it's great for the decorative elements of our pieces, not structural. Next on our list, we have tongue and groove. So I have my two pieces of wood here, and on this piece I cut the tongue by relieving the wood off of either side, leaving the tongue protruding. Its match is done just the opposite. I left the two outsides and I cut a groove down the center that is of the same size as the tongue. So when they go together, it gives us a nice joint. This is long grain all the way through, which provides a wonderful glue, lots of glue surface, very, very strong. Next, let's look at what is called a biscuit joint. So here, this is a biscuit. You can buy these in different sizes and different quantities, right? It's just a piece of wood cut into this wafer football shape. And with that, I take my two pieces of wood that I want to join together. I will employ this groovy guy here. This is called a biscuit joiner, right? And what it does is my piece of wood is on its face. I plunge this cutter blade, if you can see it here, my cutter blade, into the piece of wood, creating this nice groove. I do that on both pieces. Apply my glue. Whoop. And line them up. Here I've got my two tick marks where those were going to be, right? And allows me to put those together. Long grain to long grain, very strong joint. Remember, when utilizing glue, oftentimes, most of the time, the glue joint itself is stronger than the wood itself. The addition of a biscuit is primarily to help you align your pieces when you're putting it all together. There's not, the biscuit itself has no strength. I doubt I'm strong enough. I am. The biscuit by itself has no strength, but it does provide, again, alignment for joining our pieces during the glue up assembly process. To accompany that, or similar to it, before biscuits came out, we used what's called a dowel. And this is just a cylindrical shaped piece of wood, right? And to utilize these, we simply drill 2 holes in the pieces that we want to make together. Apply our glue, insert our dowel, slide them together. There you go. Does the same basic function as the biscuit. However, in some applications, for instance, if I didn't drill it on this one, if I wanted to join these two, say a stretcher to a leg for a table, I could insert that dowel to give us a little extra glue surface and provide a little bit more strength to this particular joint. That's dowels. Next, how about screws? We talked about on a butt joint, we could apply, this way. On a butt joint, we might want to install a screw. So this is a wood screw. If you'll notice the tapered head, I could drill a hole, and if I'm doing it, I'm going to utilize this style of bit, which is called a countersink bit. It has a slight taper with a cut edge on it that drills just a slight hole in the surface so that our screw sits below the surface when it's installed. Without that, it's going to want to stick up. It's going to want to protrude on the face of the outside. We don't want that. Makes it really hard to sand when you got screws sticking out. So that's a screw. Now we can move into some that can be a little more challenging. I don't have illustrations of them or examples, but I'll get into that as we move into cabinetry or some of the joint for casework. It's called a rabbet, and a rabbet is, you can draw it on here. A rabbet, I would take and I would cut this portion of this piece of wood out in order to allow another piece to recess and sit in it. That's a rabbet. Then we also had dados, and a dado, draw that real fast. A dado would be this similar to the rabbet, but instead of this has wood contact on this face and this face, a dado would give me contact. I would cut this out the same depth, say in order to put this piece in it. I would cut that out, and on the side, it will look like this, where I cut that out, allowing our piece to slide in and have glue contact surface on 3 sides. Again, we'll get more into those two when we get into our casework. Last but not least on our list today is dovetail joints. Dovetails, this is a very classic joint. There are jigs that are available to use with a router. To do this, these are hand-cut dovetails where I laid them out where I wanted them, the size that I wanted them. So dovetail joints, as you can see, here's the face of, this is a drawer. The face of the drawer versus the side of the drawer allows the 2 sides or the 2 pieces to interlock, right? So that they bind together simply by their shape. So as this being the drawer face with a handle on it, if I'm pulling on it consistently, pulling and pushing, because of the shape of the joint, I will never be able to pull the face off of the drawer side. It's always going to be locked in there. The other advantage here is the tremendous amount of glue surface I get between these 2 pieces. Very, very, very strong joint. It's been used in drawers for hundreds of years. Oh, I forgot one. How about mortise and tenon? Mortise and tenon is another classic wood joint. So here I have this couch that I'm in the process of redoing. So a mortise is a recess in a piece of wood, right? This particular one is square. They can be oval. I've seen a lot of folks that are now doing just utilizing routers, which cuts an oval hole and making their tenons to match. I'm a classical kind of guy, so I kind of like the square hole. Yes, I'm a square. So anyway, it's a hole in my piece of wood, right? That's the mortise side. And the mortise receives a tenon. So the tenon protrudes from the end of this piece of stock. Leaves a nice shoulder here for the 2 pieces to join. These won't go together right now because I haven't cleaned them up. But I'll try. No, it's not going to go in there. Try this one. One more try. Well, it's close, but you get the idea. So the tenon fits into the mortise, provides a tremendous amount of glue surface. If I can get it back apart. Tremendous amount of long grain glue surface here that fits tightly into our mortise. Very strong joint. And again, this shoulder that runs around this piece will sit flat and flush against its joining piece, giving us a nice, tight, strong joint. Again, this is a couch, and it was done solely with mortise and tenons. No hardware. An entire couch. It's one my father made back in the early 70s, and it's been used and abused, so I'm restoring it. Well, that's about it. So we'll get into some other joints and joinery as we progress through the series. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you learned something out of here. So take your design, the project that you're working on, and as you're designing it, think about the types of joints that you will want to utilize in the fabrication of that product. Once you've decided that, buy the appropriate tools, which we'll get into moving forward, to cut that joint and practice. Get you some scrap material and practice. Master the joint and then apply it to your project. So yeah, that wraps us up. I'm going to go take something for my joints, I think. Feeling a little stiff today. But I hope you've enjoyed the program today. I hope you've learned something. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you down the road.